Alright, is anybody feeling the vibe shift, or is it just me? Because about a week or two ago, I had an instinct that Trump had a slight edge, that he would eke out a victory in Pennsylvania, but today I feel opposite. Not only due to vibes, but due to actual high-quality polling that we got in multiple key swing states, along with new polling with people my age. Young people are now splitting for VP Harris at insane margins, and I want to explain exactly why. First, hundreds of doctors are demanding Trump's health records after his events are becoming increasingly bizarre, and after he refuses to take a physical exam, refuses to take a cognitive exam, but continues to say that he is more healthy and more sharp than VP Kamala Harris and even President Obama, which is absolutely laughable. You know, we're going to break down Trump's delusion, we're going to break down the bad news that he got, and some videos of him melting down on stage, and with 14 days to go, we have no time to waste. Drop a like, subscribe, and I want to give you guys some rapid fire news really quickly. Let me know if you like a rapid fire news segment about what's going on in the political environment today. So first of all, we just learned that Vice President Kamala Harris will be visiting Houston, Texas on Friday to focus on abortion rights, which is a key issue of this election cycle. MeidasTouch just posted new. Vice President Kamala Harris will be campaigning in Houston, Texas on Friday, and you can see the advertisement here. This is amazing stuff, and it shows that they have internal polling telling them that Texas will be worth visiting when there's 10 days to go in the election on Friday. See, VP Harris will be traveling to Houston, Texas to draw a contrast with former President Trump over the controversial issue of abortion. Now, during her remarks, VP Harris is expected to warn of the threat a second Trump term poses to women's reproductive freedom. Harris will also place the blame on former President Trump for extreme abortion bans, including in Texas. And more background, in 2021, Texas banned abortions after fetal cardiac activity is detected, usually around 6 weeks of pregnancy, and we have seen a spike in infant mortality rate directly after that. At the same time, Liz Cheney is trying to give Republican women permission to vote for Harris. If VP Harris can give them the permission structure to vote for a candidate that they may not agree with fully, that could swing the election. That could genuinely swing the election. I see people in my comments divided over Liz Cheney. I read your guys' comments. Many people say that Liz Cheney shouldn't be anywhere near VP Harris's campaign, but from a broad political strategic perspective, you want to build the biggest coalition possible heading into election day, and even if that includes another pro-democracy person. Liz Cheney doesn't seem like a bad person. Also, the fight for Latino voters is in the spotlight today, and you guys will be hearing a lot about that this week with 2 days until election day and nearly 16 million ballots already cast across the country. Trump and Kamala are competing for a shrinking universe of available voters. At the same time, abortion rights will be on the ballot in at least 10 states in November. Those are just some updates on the state of the race. Now let's jump into some of this terrible polling that Donald Trump got, and I want to show you some clips of him getting destroyed. So we know that VP Kamala Harris is going to be visiting Houston, Texas, but we also learned today that Eminem and Obama will be visiting the Motor City. That is right. Eminem will be introducing Obama at a Detroit rally. Eminem is used to being the headlining act, but he'll be the opener at Kamala Harris's campaign rally in Detroit, where he's set to introduce none other than former President Barack Obama. CNN is reporting that Eminem will be joining the campaign trail at an absolute crucial time for the Harris campaign, with Election Day just 2 weeks away. That is amazing. Eminem has a lot of pull, a lot of influence. He is an absolute legend. At the same time, we got this poll. Harris leads Trump by 20 points with younger Americans, new CNBC Generation Lab survey finds. Jobs, taxes, and trust in government are the top issues for younger voters. Respondents listed TikTok alongside TV news and websites as their primary source of information about the election. And something I'm always explaining to people in my generation is that you don't have to think VP Harris is perfect, but she is a vehicle for change, and she is way better than Donald Trump. Yes, our institutions are far from perfect, that is obvious, but they don't have to be perfect in order for us to want to preserve the same institutions that held on January 6th, preserve the same institutions that will allow us to pass climate change regulation, allow us to pass gun reform, education reform, all of these different things that won't be possible if Trump gets back into office. Exactly 2 weeks before Election Day, a new CNBC poll finds that VP Harris has grown her advantage in recent months over Republican Donald Trump among voters between the ages of 18 and 34. I'm telling you guys, if I had a professor in college like Donald Trump who was constantly talking about himself, constantly lying to the class, coming up with nicknames for other faculty that he deems the enemy of the campus or whatever, I mean, I would drop that class. I would drop the class if Donald Trump were my professor. The latest quarterly youth and money survey shows VP Harris with a 20 percentage point lead over the former president. Faced with a similar question in July, only 46% of respondents selected Harris, when today 60% said they would. There we go. The youth vote is moving over to VP Harris at a rapid rate, and this says Harris's 20-point lead over Trump is the same 20-point lead that Biden won the same voter base by, which is perfect. And here's some of the amazing polling news. Trump v. Harris 2024 polls. Harris leads in 4 latest survey. Before we dig into this polling, I want to show you this video of Donald Trump getting absolutely bodied on The Breakfast Club by DJ Envy and Charlemagne the God when Laura Trump went on The Breakfast Club and gets called out over Trump's racism. Watch.
A lot of people feel that Trump is racist. And what do you say to that? You know, in 73, of course, it was when he got sued for not renting to African Americans. In 89, when he took out the ad in the paper. And I mean, even saying Obama wasn't born here and show his birth certificate. And there's numerous things. So what do you say to that?
Well, I think that's ridiculous. I've known this man for 16 years. And, you know, you can go to each of those incidents and, you know, there was never any proof of anything with the houses that you're talking about.
He settled out for that, though, right?
Yeah, they settled that. That was, and there was no admission of anything there. You know, Central Park 5. There were so many people. You had a Democrat, DA who prosecuted the guys, and they admitted to it. There were a lot of people in New York.
They were
at that time.
exonerated and freed, and there was never an apology. Never sorry, never a my bad.
However, I will say that you have to look at somebody and what they actually have done, and Donald Trump really was very beneficial to the black community when he was in the White House. I will say I've never seen this man say a racist thing. I think the attacks are fairly... Why is that funny, Charlemagne?
I'm just glad. It's hysterical. But I mean,
no, Charlemagne,
because people
listen.
act like there's no such thing as Google or we don't have TV.
Charlemagne makes a good point here. He may not always be right, but in this scenario, he is absolutely spot on. Because Donald Trump is a child. He has a childlike understanding of the world. And as Liz Cheney said yesterday, I wouldn't let Donald Trump babysit my kid if I had one.
Just end this by saying, and I also know, because I have spent time with Vice President Harris, because I have come to understand what she believes about how she will govern, that she will be a president for all Americans, that she's committed to listening and committed to having viewpoints, some of which, you know, come from different ends of the political spectrum. And if you think about how you conduct, you know, your life outside of politics, how we all conduct our everyday lives, those are the kinds of people that you trust. Those are the kinds of people you can work with. Like if you wouldn't hire somebody to babysit your kids, like, you shouldn't make that guy the president of the United States.
Exactly. A 34-time convicted felon babysitting your kids. And VP Harris is really doubling down on the women voter strategy. Donald Trump is currently targeting low propensity voters like young males, like Latino males, like black men. And he's doing that by going on all of these bro podcasts. He talked to The Undertaker. He talked to Logan Paul. He went on all of these different comedians' podcasts in an attempt to turn out low propensity, college-aged voters. That is his strategy. Meanwhile, VP Harris is kind of mirroring that, but with women. VP Harris went on a podcast named the Call Her Daddy podcast with Alex Cooper, and the primary demographic, the primary fan base of that podcast is women in America. And now Liz Cheney and VP Harris are campaigning to mainly women audiences, and VP Harris is specifically targeting women in Texas on the issue of abortion. I think it's a brilliant strategy, and she's banking on women voters in America making up for any potential gains Trump may have made. This brings us to some amazing polls. So first, Harris leads by 4 points, 50% to 46% in Morning Consult's weekly poll released Tuesday, consistent with last week's results, but down from her 51%, but that's still an amazing lead. A Reuters Ipsos poll, also released Tuesday, found Harris with a 3-point lead, 46 to 43%. Harris is up 1 point, 45 to 44% in a USA Today Suffolk University University poll, and I'm really starting to hope, I'm really starting to believe from the bottom of my heart that the polling this election cycle is accurately accounting for Trump's support in a way they didn't before. Because in previous election cycles, Trump's polling would always be 38%, 39%, 40%, but then he would always outperform and get 44 to 45%, but now the polling has him at 44 or 45%, so I'm hoping the polling is accounting for his fan base and accurately counting VP Harris's. Harris leads in two other surveys, one 52% to Trump's 47, and the other 49% to Trump's 45, and this article is amazing as well. Kamala Harris gets good news in polling after weeks of a tight race. VP Harris received a positive swing state poll after a series of other surveys suggested that Donald Trump is currently making ground. Now, Trump and Harris are tied at 48% in Nevada. North Carolina, she's down by 3 points. Arizona, she's down by 3 points. But all of the other swing states, VP Harris is ahead in, which is amazing. And I want to end this video off by playing you a clip of Representative Byron Donalds being asked if he would be okay with Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff being rounded up. And I want you to watch his answer, and I'll explain it after.
In every major city in the country, that is very dangerous. It's something that's concerning.
So you would be okay with Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi being deemed the enemy from within? Would you go along with them being rounded up? Would you go along with them being arrested?
Absolutely not. And listen, and let's be very clear, Donald Trump didn't even say that. He said he was concerned. He said that, yes, you have somebody like Adam Schiff who would use his position as chairman of the Intel Committee, who has access to information that even members of Congress don't have access to, and to leak that into the press.
Okay, so Byron Donald says absolutely not. He wouldn't go along with it. That's a lie. He then says Donald Trump didn't say that, and then he justifies why, if Donald Trump said that, it actually would have been okay. Now, Donald Trump did say exactly that. He said we might need to mobilize the National Guard, and Byron Donalds is lying. Let me explain to you exactly why. Republicans have run defense for Donald Trump every step of the way, no matter the consequences. We saw Fox News lose $800 million, and they fired Tucker Carlson and continued to run defense for Donald Trump, whether it's Republican congressmen, whether it's Republican commentators, or people within Trump's sphere, they will all run defense for him until he drives our country off of a cliff. For example, for a very specific example, there is a piece of Project 2025 that says Donald Trump needs to pass a Schedule F executive order. The Schedule F executive order is not some theory, it's something Trump did during his first term, and it says that you can hire and fire people who work within our government, civil servants, at will, not based on their merit or their skill. You don't even need a reason to fire them or hire them. You can just hire people based on their loyalty, or even worse, fire people based on their loyalty. If they're not loyal enough, you fire them, replace them with a sycophant. So there is a reality where Donald Trump wins, and on day one, he stuffs our institutions with Heritage Foundation Academy people, and then, as Donald Trump continues to erode every single norm, Byron Donalds will run defense for him every step of the way. So the entire reason I'm going on this side tangent is because Byron Donalds would run defense for Donald Trump even if he began to fill our institutions, even if he began to weaponize our DOJ, even if he began to defy Supreme Court orders, or if the Supreme Court became defiant and Donald Trump wanted retribution. My point is, Byron Donalds would follow along every step of the way, along with Lindsey Graham, along with people like Sean Hannity and Jesse Waters. They would run defense for Donald Trump, and there would become a point where all of our institutions would be basically crumbled, and no one would know who to believe because people like Byron Donalds are still out there creating an alternate reality. Either way, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you appreciate what I do, drop a like, subscribe. Thank you guys for 600K. Have a great rest of your day, and peace out.